Shohei Ohtani has never been a man of many words. But when he stood up in front of 12 of the most powerful executives in Japanese baseball and spoke for 30 uninterrupted minutes, every single person in that room went completely silent. What he said in those 30 minutes has now shaken the entire foundation of Samurai Japan, put manager Ibata's career on the line, and sent shockwaves through every NPB front office in the country. This is not a rumor. This is not speculation. A major scandal has been uncovered, and the consequences for Ibata and several Samurai Japan players could be severe, permanent, and career-ending. Stay with us, because what happened behind closed doors in Tokyo is something every baseball fan needs to know. Just days ago, a formal hearing was quietly arranged in Tokyo between Shohei Ohtani, manager Ibata, and a panel of 12 senior NPB executives. This was not a routine meeting. This was not a press conference or a scheduled review session. This was an emergency hearing, the kind that is only called when something has gone seriously wrong behind the scenes. Sources close to the situation confirmed that the meeting lasted several hours. The atmosphere inside the room was described as extremely tense. Several executives arrived with prepared documents, and it quickly became clear that this was not a simple discussion about team performance or tournament preparation. This was an investigation, and at the center of that investigation was information that had been quietly building for weeks, hidden from the public, and now impossible to ignore. The fact that 12 NPB executives were gathered together for a single hearing involving Samurai Japan's manager and its biggest star tells you everything you need to know about how serious this situation truly is. In the history of Japanese baseball, this kind of emergency panel hearing has only been called a handful of times. Each time it was called, major consequences followed. To understand why this hearing happened, you need to understand what has been happening inside the Samurai Japan camp over the past several weeks. On the surface, everything appeared to be fine. Japan was winning games. The team was performing well enough to stay in contention. Manager Ibata was giving press conferences and speaking confidently about the team's preparation and strategy. But behind the scenes, several concerning reports had been quietly reaching NPB leadership. These reports suggested that there were serious internal issues within the Samurai Japan camp that were directly affecting team decisions, player selections, and the overall management of the squad. These were not minor complaints. These were formal concerns raised by multiple parties who believed that something fundamentally wrong was happening inside the team's inner circle. NPB leadership initially attempted to address these concerns through quiet internal channels. However, as more information continued to surface, it became clear that a formal hearing was unavoidable. The decision was made at the highest level of Japanese baseball administration to bring together 12 of the most senior executives, call in manager Ibata directly, and most importantly, invite Shohei Ohtani himself to provide his personal account of what had been happening inside Samurai Japan. The fact that Ohtani agreed to attend and agreed to speak openly was itself considered shocking by many who were aware of the situation. Ohtani has always been known for his professionalism and his preference for staying out of controversy. For him to willingly walk into that hearing room and prepare a 30-minute statement told the executives present that whatever he was about to say was something he had been holding back for a long time. When Shohei Ohtani began speaking, he did not hold back. According to sources who were present at the hearing, Ohtani spoke in a calm but deeply serious tone from the very beginning. He made it clear immediately that he had not come to the hearing to protect anyone. He had come to tell the complete and unfiltered truth about what he had witnessed, experienced, and been made aware of during his time with Samurai Japan. Ohtani's statement reportedly covered several critical areas. He began by addressing the internal culture within the Samurai Japan camp, describing a situation that was far more complicated and troubled than anything that had been reported publicly. He spoke about decisions being made behind closed doors that he personally disagreed with, decisions that he believed were not in the best interest of the players or the national team as a whole. He also addressed the treatment of players within the squad, describing instances where pressure was applied in ways that he felt were inappropriate and damaging to team morale. Several younger NPB players, according to Ohtani's account, had been placed in difficult positions that affected both their performance and their mental well-being. Ohtani made clear that he had attempted to address these concerns internally before agreeing to speak at the hearing, but that those attempts had not produced any meaningful change. Perhaps most significantly, Ohtani directly addressed manager Ibata during his statement. He was careful and precise with his words, but the message was unmistakable. He stated clearly that certain decisions made by Ibata during this tournament had raised serious questions among the players, and that the trust between the manager and key members of the squad had been significantly damaged. He said this was not something that could be fixed simply by winning a few more games. The problem, in Ohtani's words, went much deeper than results on the field. By the time Ohtani finished his 30-minute statement, several of the 12 executives present were visibly shaken. One executive reportedly asked Ohtani to clarify a specific point, and Ohtani's response left no room for doubt. He said, "I am here because I want the truth to be known, not a version of the truth, the whole truth." Following Ohtani's statement, the hearing moved into its most critical phase. The 12 NPB executives began presenting the information they had gathered during their investigation, and what was revealed in that room confirmed that the concerns raised were far more serious than many had initially believed. The scandal at the center of this hearing involves a series of decisions and actions taken within the Samurai Japan camp that directly violated NPB regulations and the internal code of conduct established for the national team program. While full details are still being carefully verified, multiple sources have confirmed that the violations involve issues related to team management practices, unauthorized communications, and the improper handling of player-related matters that should have been managed through official channels. Several Samurai Japan players are believed to have been directly involved in or affected by these violations. The names of those players have not yet been officially released, but sources indicate that the panel of executives has already identified the individuals in question and that formal proceedings against them are being prepared. Manager Ibata himself is facing the most serious scrutiny. The executives present at the hearing reportedly questioned Ibata extensively about specific decisions he made during the tournament, and about his awareness of the issues that Ohtani and others had raised. Ibata's responses, according to sources, did not fully satisfy the panel, and NPB leadership is now seriously considering what action to take against him. This is the part of the story that has sent the biggest shockwave through Japanese baseball. The punishments currently being discussed by NPB leadership are not minor. They are not warnings or symbolic reprimands. The executives involved in this hearing are reportedly considering consequences that could permanently alter the careers of everyone found to have violated NPB regulations. For manager Ibata, the most serious outcome being discussed is a formal suspension from his managerial duties, potentially covering the remainder of this tournament and extending into future national team activities. Some within NPB leadership are reportedly pushing for even stronger action, arguing that the violations uncovered during the hearing represent a fundamental breach of trust that cannot be addressed with a temporary suspension alone. For the players identified as being involved, the punishments under consideration range from official reprimands to suspensions from national team eligibility. In the most serious cases, NPB executives have reportedly discussed the possibility of referring matters to individual team management at the club level, which could have significant implications for the players' professional contracts and career trajectories. What makes this situation particularly significant is that Samurai Japan is currently in the middle of an active tournament. Any punishment handed down now will not only affect the individuals involved, but could dramatically change the composition of the squad and Japan's chances of advancing. NPB leadership is reportedly wrestling with the question of timing, balancing the need for accountability against the reality that any immediate action could seriously disrupt the national team's competitive campaign. News of the hearing and its outcomes has already begun filtering back to the players currently with Samurai Japan, and the reaction inside the camp has been significant. Several players who were not directly involved in the hearing have reportedly expressed shock at the seriousness of what has been uncovered. The mood within the squad is described as unsettled and uncertain, with many players unsure about what the coming days will bring. Those closest to Ohtani say that he made his decision to speak at the hearing after long and careful consideration. He is deeply committed to Samurai Japan and to the legacy of Japanese baseball, and he believed that staying silent while these issues went unaddressed was not something he could continue to do. The respect that his teammates have for Ohtani means that his decision to speak openly at the hearing has carried enormous weight within the squad. Manager Ibata, meanwhile, has reportedly maintained a composed exterior in the days following the hearing, but those around him describe him as under enormous pressure. He is fully aware that his future with Samurai Japan and potentially his broader managerial career now rests in the hands of the 12 executives who heard Ohtani's statement and reviewed the evidence gathered during the investigation. NPB leadership is expected to make a formal announcement regarding the outcomes of this hearing within the coming days. The timing of that announcement is being carefully managed given the ongoing tournament, but sources indicate that a decision cannot and will not be delayed indefinitely. The 12 executives who attended the hearing are reportedly in active discussion, and the pressure from multiple directions to reach a clear and decisive outcome is significant. For Samurai Japan, the challenge now is to find a way to maintain focus and competitive intensity during what is undeniably the most turbulent period in the team's recent history. The players who remain unaffected by the hearing must find a way to channel this disruption into motivation rather than distraction. Whether they are capable of doing that will say a great deal about the character of this squad. And for Shohei Ohtani, the man who stood up in front of 12 executives and spoke the whole truth for 30 uninterrupted minutes, the coming days will reveal whether his courageous decision to speak openly will ultimately make Samurai Japan stronger, or whether the consequences of this scandal will prove too damaging to overcome. One thing is certain: Japanese baseball will never look at this Samurai Japan squad in quite the same way again. And the 30 minutes that Ohtani spoke in that room in Tokyo will be talked about for a very long time. Thank you for watching. This is one of the biggest stories to come out of the Samurai Japan camp in years, and we will continue to bring you the latest updates as they develop. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think should happen to manager Ibata and the players involved? And if you want to stay ahead of every major development in this story, make sure you subscribe to the channel right now. We will not let you miss a single update.